3 Golden Eagles for War Thunder. Link in the description. Hello you sexy beasts, welcome back to War Thunder. This is the Tiger 2P, a German rank 4 heavy tank sitting at a build rating of 6.3. The Tiger 2P features the 88mm KWK-43 gun, which is the same one as featured on the Tiger 2H. This gun can carry a total of 77 rounds and has a reload rate of 8.5 seconds with a maxed crew. You also get a 7.92mm machine gun on the coax, which can be used to spot enemy tanks. The gun handling of this 88mm cannon is a bit of a mixed bag. The turret traverse is actually quite good, about 18.5 degrees per second in my current configuration, but the crew completely is and the tank completely is as well. This is actually quite good for a heavy tank, especially at longer ranges. You also have a very good vertical guidance between -8 and +15 degrees, meaning that you can actually crest hills somewhat effectively, you just can't point up into the sky too effectively. Combine that with the actually quite bad vertical targeting speed of only 2 degrees per second, and you have yourself a tank that doesn't respond well to threats that appear on different altitudes. The tank has a total mass of 68 tons and has a 700 horsepower engine, giving it a power-to-weight ratio of 10.3 horsepower per ton. This is on the low side. Now, the Tiger 2P does have a great max speed of 42 km/h. I say great, this is great for heavy tanks. This thing in a straight line can actually go quite fast. However, it has problems with acceleration and hull traverse. As for the armor, you have some very good hull armor. The upper plate is anywhere between 200 and 220mm thick of effectiveness. Of course, if you hit it right in the right spot here on the machine gun, you can get a flat 150mm, but it is extremely hard to hit the right spot. The lower plate is kind of a weak spot, but not exactly when from the front. It's only 100mm thick, but due to extreme angling, it gets an effective thickness between 180 and 200mm. Of course, if you are cresting a hill, this becomes very exposed, and just right behind it is the transmission, the machine gunner, and the driver. Keep an eye out for that. The side of the hull is 80mm thick. Now, you can angle this thing quite effectively. Given the right angle, you can get about 240mm on both the front and the side, which is almost impenetrable at this tier. However, your turret front is the major weak spot of this tank. Contrary to the Tiger 2H, with a very strong but flat turret front, the Tiger 2P gets a rather weak but rounded turret front. On the weakest part, it's about 100mm thick, as well as on the turret ring, which is actually quite exposed from all angles. But due to the angling and the rounding, at longer ranges where it's harder to hit the hardest spots, the flat spots, it can actually be more effective than the Tiger 2H's turret, since the area which is weak is lesser than on the Tiger 2H, and the areas up here are between 150 and 190 to 200mm thick. Again, at longer ranges, this turret can be more effective than the Tiger 2H's. The side of the turret is only 80mm thick, but due to the rather good angling, you get about 90mm of effective thickness, which is increased if you are flanked by a tank of a lesser altitude. Now, you can angle this turret somewhat, but since both the turret side and the turret front aren't exactly the most armored thing, yeah, 120mm, most thing can punch right through you at this tier. At least at close range. Again, the farther away you are from your enemy, the harder it is going to be to hit the weak spots, and the harder it is going to be to penetrate your armor overall. Especially APCR shells, APHE shells are going to have a massive problem penetrating you. The British might prove a problem with their Sabo shells, but even those, at over 1 km range, it's going to be very hard for them to hit your weak spots. Alright, let's take a look at the shell. The standard shell, you can use it right from the get-go, is the APCVC shell. This is an APHE type, has a muzzle velocity of 1000 meters per second and an explosive filler of about 109 grams. The shell has 235mm of penetration at close range and trickles down to 204mm at 1 km distance. This shell is an extremely good all-rounder, having a good balance between penetration and muzzle velocity and explosive power as well. There are shells that do more damage than this. Of course, the Russian shells tend to do a lot more damage than the 88mm on the Tiger II, but you should not have too many problems, at least crippling most of the enemy tanks that you hit, and you can very reliably penetrate them at any range. The first shell you can unlock is the heat shell. This thing only has a muzzle velocity of 600 meters per second and only 110mm of penetration at any range. At this tier, the shell is completely and utterly useless. Just skip it completely. Don't even think about using it. There is absolutely no benefit to the shell whatsoever. The last unlock is the APCR shell, which is a muzzle velocity of 1200 meters per second, a penetration of 272mm at 10 meters, and 228mm at 1 km distance. This shell is overall more penetrative than the standard APCVC shell, however, it faces very badly against angled armor. As you can see, at 60 degrees you have about the same penetration as the APCVC shell, and at 30 degrees you lose all of the penetration advantage. Normally what I take in my Tiger IIP is about 20 shells of the APCVC type and about 5 shells of the APCR type. Now, at this rank, at 6.3, you shouldn't face too many tanks that you can penetrate with your regular shell, but if you do, and if they have flat armor, you can use this APCR shell to hit critical crews and modules. Now as for the upgrade path, this is something I don't normally cover. However, in this tank it is quite important. The Tiger IIP, contrary to the Tiger IIH, is a long-range tank. The farther away you can stay from your enemy, the better. At close range your turret is just way too weak to take any hit, and it's very easy to hit the flat weak spots of the turret front and the turret ring. However, at long range it's going to be extremely hard to penetrate you, especially if you angle your turret and your hull. As such, the first thing you should do is maximize your accuracy, and that you can do by unlocking the firepower. The horizontal turret drive will increase your turret rotation speed, the adjustment of fire and the elevation mechanism will increase your accuracy over range. This is all very important. The sooner you can get these 3 upgrades, the better. Alright, this has been it for the stats review of the Tiger IIP. Let's head into the gameplay. Now, the Tiger IIP always used to be the lesser favored sibling of the Tiger II series. In comparison with the Tiger IIH, it just didn't have many advantages. That turret, whilst being a technically smaller target from the front, had always that massive weak spot that's only 100mm thick. And at this tier, most things won't have any trouble penetrating you on that weak spot at close range. However, the one thing that the Tiger IIP has over the Tiger IIH is the smaller area of the front of the turret. That is actually a weak spot. As you saw earlier in the garage review, towards the upper side and the lower angle, you get quite a bit of effective armor, which is quite effective in bouncing shells coming from longer ranges, where it is much harder to hit accurate shots. Speaking of accurate shots, we are again on Battle for Hurtgen Forests. And here's a little trick. The distance between the bases on this map is between 2 and 2.5 kilometers. So you can kind of judge where you need to shoot, even without a rangefinder, since the rangefinder, even with the max crew, only goes up to 1 kilometer distance. Now spending my time trying to get some ranging shots at this spot over here. It's always a good idea to start with those, because the players do tend to take a little bit longer to get to you. Now, the 88mm gun on the Tiger IIP, as is on the Tiger IIH, is an excellent gun at this tier. It has a really good reload rate, about 8.5 seconds when with a fully maxed crew, which is rather fast. The shell has awesome penetration retention over range, awesome penetration overall. I mean, 235 millimeters of penetration at close range. That is very good. That is extremely good, this tier. And of course, since this is filled with a explosive filler, once it hits, it does a lot of damage, as a T-34 just had to find out. That is a player T-34. Now, the first shot was rather lucky. I hit his engine, set him on fire. He is now crippled and immobilized. His crew is completely fine so far yet, however, and he's trying to get some shots back at me. Now, the one thing the T-34-85 is not good at is long-range shots. The 85mm on the T-34-85 has a rather slow muzzle velocity and not too great of a penetration over longer ranges, especially not compared to the Tiger II's 88mm gun. This thing at range is just awesome, just absolutely awesome. The accuracy is great. Of course, it takes some getting used to, trying to get those range shots in. It's always really hard when target's over 1 kilometer away, but once you get the range shot in, that happens. Shell went in through the lower plate. It was about a 1.5, 1.6, 1.8 kilometer shot. That's pretty much the best example of long range sniping you get in War Thunder. Now at this point, the enemy has taken the single flag that is on this map. The A flag is over to my front, a little bit to the right of the screen right now. We have a strong team presence over there, however. The only problem is we are not just facing the Soviets. Now, the Germans with the Tigers and their King Tigers on this map used to be very strong against the Soviet forces, since they do have the advantage of those long-range shells. However, the Soviets are fighting together with the British, and the British at this tier are a problem. They have Canavans, and the Canavans are they are deadly. They get Sabo shells, which are extremely fast, hold the penetration very well over long ranges, and have a really fast reload rate. Not only that, they also get some decent armor, especially both on the hull and on the turret. Of course, the hull armor of the Canavan isn't quite as strong as the King Tigers, but it also isn't quite as big of a target. Speaking is really hard today, I'm sorry about that. Now our team is slowly crumbling apart over in the A flag, and they still haven't been able to advance. You see, it is very important to read the map if you want to be effective in War from the ground forces. And if you see half of your team just standing there, not advancing for the flag, something is wrong. And as you can see, in the space of 10 seconds, we lost half of a team. From the 8 tanks you had up there just a bit ago, now we only have 4. The T-44s and the Canavan over on the A flag are working my team over. Now I'm trying to support my Tiger 2P teammate over in the city. Again, the Tiger 2P isn't exactly the ideal city combat tank. It is a very good gun, the mobility isn't quite that great. It has very good hull armor, but of course the turret front is a really weak spot, and very easy to hit at close ranges. At long ranges, of course, that isn't quite the issue. And as such, I'm trying to stay somewhat at long range. Now, at this point I know it is no use charging into the cap. We have lost our entire force on the A cap. The A cap is lost. The only way we can win this game right now is by eliminating the enemy team. That's going to be a massive challenge, however, since, well, we lost already half of the team, and the enemy team is very strong. They only lost a couple of tanks so far. I definitely did not have the advantage of having a great team in this match. Now I know that the enemy is going to come from over this side, so I tried to get a preliminary range finding, range distance control measurement to more or less know how far I have to aim. Now, of course, it isn't too hard to hit a tank at this range. It is quite close, but it's always nice to know the exact range so that you can go for the weak spots, as you saw there. T-44 was kind of upwards, was presenting his lower glacis, and since I knew the range exactly, it was very easy for me to hit him through the lower glacis. His driver's down, he's trying to shoot back at me, but at this range he has no chance of penetrating me. He does make it back just in time. If I had reloaded a split second earlier, I would have gotten shot again into his lower plate and probably blown him up. Sadly, that did not quite happen. That is what seems to be either a Carnarvon or a Centurion. I think it's a Carnarvon. The Carnarvon has a lower build rating, if I'm not mistaken. Yep, it was indeed a Carnarvon. I really find it hard to distinguish between the Centurion and the Carnarvon, since they have pretty much an identical turret. Now at this point I'm just trying to stem the flow here. Our entire force has been completely decimated over on that flank, and all I can do now is try to hold the enemy from advancing. There's another Carnarvon. I try to go for the lower glacis. Doesn't quite make it, it goes low. Carnarvon has no problem punching right through my turret. That was definitely a saber shell. Now, it's kind of a good luck, bad luck situation. The Carnarvon has a very, very fast and very, very good penetrating shell, which made it very easy for him to punch through my turret in a quick reaction shot. However, since it was a saber shell, he didn't do much damage. He only took my cannon breach down and took out 2 of my crew. My tank is still in perfect fighting condition, still having the driver, the gunner and the loader. However, I now must pay attention here. This Carnarvon is taking fire from the side from Manet, getting distracted. I line up for another shot and fail again. Managed to make my way out of his shot just in time. He bounces a saber shell right out the side of my turret. Taking some more shots over there. I think that's the T-44 that has gone back for another round. Now, the T-44 isn't quite as dangerous as the Carnarvon here, so I focus my fire on the Carnarvon. This thing has to die. This thing actually has the gun that can penetrate me at that range, so he's a priority target for me right now. The T-44 can't wait for now. T-44 takes another shot, bounces. Carnarvon is still there. I try to measure the range so that I can get an accurate shot in. He's 500 meters away, but he backs off. However, the T-44 doesn't. He does back off just in time. Carnarvon pokes his head out again. Try to get a shot in, and there we go. Finally I get a shot into his gunner and into his commander. He's now disabled for the next couple of seconds. T-44 goes over the hill. I angle my turret as I make him bounce. He bounces, and now he cannot escape anymore. 40 meters away, shot right through the lower glacis, goes through the fuel tank, goes through the ammo rack, and he is down. Now read the chat. My teammate actually warned me of a tank flanking me from the right side. However, they are not flanking from the right side, they're actually flanking from the left. I take a shot from a PT-76, which takes down my loader. Thankfully, it seems like he was shooting a Heat FS or a APCR or APTS shell, as the loader was the only thing I got hit there. Lucky shot, that was actually my last shell of APBC, and now I am down to 1 shell of APCR. Yeah, at this point I just get overrun. That was the last kill. We are now getting shot at from an M4 and in a bit also a tank from the left side. We are now completely overrun. The ticket counter is going down. We are trying to hold the door, but it is to no avail. A target 2B did his job, but the team just wasn't there. So, we managed to actually get out of the game with 6 kills. Now, since we did lose, we didn't get that many silver lines or research points. Sadly, that happens when you lose. You get a way bigger bonus when you win. But look at these scores. I got 6 kills. I got triple the score of the rest of my team combined. That was an awful team. That was honestly an awful team. I have no idea what happened. That was one of the worst teams I've had in a match ever, pretty much. The enemy team had some very good players. There's the number 1 player that has 8 kills, 4 kills over there, 3 kills over there. They had a very good team. Us, yeah, I pretty much had to carry out, and even then, it wasn't quite enough. So, the Tiger 2P, is it worth it? Is it not? Honestly, it depends on your playstyle. The Tiger 2P definitely isn't a close range tank. You can't use this thing like a Tiger 2H. Tiger 2H you can get up close, you can angle your turret and your hull, and you're pretty much impenetrable. This thing, not the case. It is a massive, massive weak spot on the turret. However, if you keep your range, if you keep above 1 kilometer distance, this thing becomes a fortress. It becomes very, very, very good. And since you do have the gun that is able to operate at that range, you can be very, very effective. This is a sniper tank. And the one major advantage that this thing has over the target rate is the battle rating. The target rate has a battle rating of 6.7, which makes it face top tier tanks of up to battle rating 7.7. And at that tier, nothing has any problem penetrating right through your armor. They get heat FS shells, they get APDS shells. And the Tiger 2P on battle rating 6.3 doesn't have that problem. Here, I'm going to read you a list of tanks that the Tiger 2P doesn't face. It doesn't face the M103, it doesn't face the T54, 1949 and the 1951 variants. It only faces the 1947 variant, which doesn't get either APDS or heat FS shells, which means the T54 1947 actually has trouble penetrating you at range. You don't face the IS-4M, you don't face the ZSU-57, you don't face Conquerors, you don't face the Falcon. Those are all the tanks that you can't face, that the Tiger 2 can face, and all of the tanks have no problem dispatching of you. But since you have the 6.3 battle rating, you cannot face them. However, here's a couple of tanks that you can face that the Tiger 2H can't face. You get the Sherman mediums, you get T-34-85, you can face the KV-85, you can face the SU-85M, the SU-100Y, the Comet 1 and the Avenger. Now, none of those tanks can do anything about you, which is the beauty of the Tiger 2P. So, would I recommend going for the Tiger 2P? Yes, definitely. This is a tank that teaches you how to employ your tank at long ranges, and when it gets down tiered, it is absolutely awesome. There's nothing that can do anything against you except for go through your turret. But as long as you keep a range, that's all you have to do. So, guys, hopefully I've somehow managed to convince you of the Tiger 2P. This tank has had quite a bad reputation amongst the community, but I've had a great time employing this thing at long ranges. Now, as always, you can vote for the next vehicle on the top right corner. There should be an info card popping up right now. The next video is going to be a comparison between all the Sherman 76mm variants. It's going to take some time to go through that, but hopefully I can get it up by Thursday. As always, like this video if you did, subscribe if you're new around here, and my name has been MikeGoesBoom. Thanks for watching.
You can lift your head up to the sky, take a deeper breath and give it time. You can walk the path among the lines with your shattered frame of mind. Or instead you could always stay. We can wait right here and play until somehow you can find a slightly